It is the Flow Friday Night Sports Show, and Joe Franklin is back COVIDless, thankfully, and to talk EP netball. And Joe, how are you?
Much better this week, thanks, Jace. Much better.
Excellent. You battled through gamefully last week, I must say, with the spicy cough creating havoc, but no longer lasting effects, I trust?
Just a bit the cough just does linger around for a little bit, but other than that, pretty good, thanks, Jace.
All right, well, that's good to hear. Let's have a look at last week's matches, and they were all pretty well clear-cut across Great Flinders and Eastern Eyre, weren't they? Let's start at Carcoo, where Cougars did what we thought they would do to United Yolanda. They'd basically doubled their score, beating them 62-30.
Yeah, they did. And look, United Yolanda probably would have been, not excited, but would have been okay about scoring 30 goals against the Cumberland-Skapini side, because 30 goals isn't a bad effort, I suppose, when you're thinking of the opposition you're up against. The problem is that they scored 62 goals and double your score, and all of a sudden it doesn't sound anywhere near as good about shooting 30 goals. But look, the Cummins side just way too experienced for the United Yolanda side. The two young goalies really struggled. Actually, it was really quite interesting though, because it was two young goalies against two young defenders, but the two Kapini defenders in Molly Burns and Holly Gale just very, very good. They've really come together as a combination, and they really made Elsie and Abby work really, really hard. So, the centre court, as we talk week in and week out for Cougars, is just so experienced, and it doesn't matter which way Ella plays them around. They just seem to be able to slot in and make it work, and their transition from defence into attack is just amazing. So, look, they're certainly pitting themselves as the side to beat this year. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, they're a class act. At Lock, let's have a look at the Roos. They were too good for Eyre United in the end. The margin surprised me here. Lock 40 to Eyre United 23. They just don't have enough at the attacking end of the court, the Saints.
No, they don't, and that is exactly what happened. They sort of Lock got off to a really good start. They got off to a real flyer, and they jumped Eyre United early, and with exactly the fact that they were shooting their goals, and Eyre United just couldn't seem to get their goals through the ring. But they just, after that though, Eyre United sort of after quarter time were actually able to steady the flow a little bit, and they were able to be a bit more competitive for the rest of the game. Again, as Brooke has been saying, to put four quarters together is their biggest issue. They just cannot put four quarters together, and unfortunately this last week it was their first quarter that let them down, and Lock just they got that very, very handy lead, and they just didn't let Eyre United back into the game really, whilst the last quarter was really competitive. Shanice Wells was pretty good for Eyre United in defence. She teamed up down there with Auntie Little and Sash Stratford, and they did a pretty good job down there with Lisa Burrows, because it's no mean feat trying to stand her. But, look, in the end, Lock were just too good, and they took the chocolates.
Well done to Lock. Let's head to Minnipa, where Elliston District's got to play, game 2 on these brand new magnificent courts up there at Minnipa, and Ramblers come to town to enjoy them, but they didn't enjoy the game too much.
Well, funnily enough, Kira, she's finding a positive every week, which is what you have to do as a coach when you're putting a whole new side together. But she said she didn't think that any of the girls actually looked out of place, so to speak. They looked like they belonged. It was just that Elliston Districts looked like they belonged better. And, 62-23. Look, Ramblers they're trying. They're just having trouble scoring from their turnovers. Paige Darlitz and Caitlin Harsma battled really hard all day in defence, and we know how tall Elliston is. And I do think that in the end, the height and the strength of Elliston was just a little bit intimidating for the Ramblers girls. I think that, some very young ones for Ramblers through the centre court with Sally Cabot, and, standing as Zoe Phelps, who's just so strong, is always going to be a hard day at the office for Sal. But Elliston District's just too good, too tall, too good, and Ramblers need to really work on scoring off of their turnovers. Like Paige and Katie were turning the ball over, and Georgia Nurse even had a good game in there. In the end, Ramblers gave their incentive award to Brooke McAvoy, so for a good effort through the centre court. But tough day at the office for those girls.
Unfortunately, yes, up to third on the ladder for Elliston Districts now, so they stay ahead of Lock, but that ladder is sort of separated into two parts, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
that top four, whilst it's not set in a location, I guess, but it looks set with the Eagles, Ramblers and Ayr United sort of outside looking in. But don't write your ladder off yet. It all comes down to, in this draw, who you've played, not so much how many you've played. And I think they'll have a few easier games coming up towards the back end of the season, the Eagles. So we'll see how they go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I wouldn't be counting. There's a couple there that I wouldn't be counting out just yet. But, definitely there's a top three. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Well, now that I've said that about the Eagles, doesn't get much easier for them after all. They got Elliston Districts this week at Elliston.
Yeah, they have. And again, Elliston's height and strength is just what is going to be the telling factor here for United Jelena. Again, it just doesn't get any easier. Elliston, honestly, they've been pretty lucky. They have not been hit all that hard with COVID, so they've actually been able to run their 8 or 9 quite regularly and really start putting some combinations together quite nicely. So, which unfortunately United Jelena haven't been able to do. Although becoming a little bit more settled. Having said that, there's just another wave of COVID going through the Cummins area at the moment. But look, the young girls keep bringing. Cassie Maxfield, there's no question. Jasmine Francis has had a couple of runs in there for them, and that is all going to help those girls, that experience. No question about that. But look, Elliston, they'll be too tall, too strong and too quick. Their transition from defence into goals, 3 passes and they're in and it's through the ring. To beat that is pretty tough.
Yep. All right, so let's move down to Cummins, where Ramblers will host Tumby Bay and hopefully can put up an improved effort on last week. But Tumby Bay, second on the ladder at the moment, breathing down the neck of the top side in Cummins Kapini Cougars. You'd expect they'd be too good here for Ramblers.
Oh, I would think so. Good luck chasing down. Well, at the moment, Ilka Stone and Sarah Laurie are just doing a fantastic job in goals. And then young Maisie, when Maisie goes in, it's a really smooth transition. So, the Ramblers girls, they'll keep trying. There's no question about that. Paige and the Darlets will be back in defence. But unfortunately for them, Katie Harsma got hit at school this week with COVID, so she's out. So they're looking at putting Kelly Symes in there, or even Georgia Nurse into the defence end. So those girls are going to have their time cut out trying to stop those Tumby goalies. No question about that. And Abby Darlets is back in goals after she's had a bub, so she's returned from that. And she's having a crack in goals with Caitlin Benny, who's laying it down. She's out injured. The centre court, actually Lily Nettles coming to have a bit of a game, a run with them, so that'll be interesting as well. It doesn't help age-wise because they're still very young through the centre against a very experienced Kennedy McNamara and Carly Dunn and those girls through the centre for Tumby. So Tumby will be too strong. Ramblers will give it a real good crack, but Tumby will be too strong.
Yep. And in Ungara, it will be the top side Cougars taking on the bottom side Ayr United, and we all know how that will end in terms of who's going to win the game. But what about the scores?
Oh, look, if Ayr United could put 4 quarters together, I'm sure that they could really cut this scoreline down, but that is the issue that they're having at the moment. They are starting to get a settled side, and they are putting some really nice combinations together. Their defence end is coming together. Shanice Wells is really settled in there, along with Auntie and Sasha. So they're starting to put it together, and for Brooke, it's no easy task putting a whole new side together. But her younger ones, Marty Masson, she gives 110 every week through the centre. So look, they'll give Cougars a run, but sustainability is the key here. That they won't be able to sustain the effort against the Cougar side, who it doesn't matter at the moment what Ella does with them. They just seem to be able to, she can change her goalies around, take herself off, and change her centre court around. The defence line's pretty settled, but they're just running like a very well-oiled machine at the moment.
And that's simply because they are.
Yeah.
We move on. That is this round 8 of matches in Great Flinders Netball. Let's move to Eastern Ayr. And we'll go back to last weekend first. 2 A-grade matches there, and they were both clear-cut results. Cow, unfortunately, went down to the Eastern Rangers, who, again, doubled their score.
They did, 68-34. Look, Rangers put 4 quarters together, unfortunately, for Cal. Kelly was saying how they haven't been able to do that, but they actually were able to do that. And so they were able to, run away with a pretty easy win in the end. But in the end, actually, the other thing that for poor Cal is that Rangers have got Kate Semlich back as well through the centre, and she's just added so much speed back through there for them. And Cal really struggled to get anything through the centre court, really. But and the height, the two Symes girls at one end, and Jordan Hooper, who made the top 10 for at the regionals the other day, and Erin Roberts is just they now that they've put 4 quarters together, they are going to be very hard to beat, I think. And for all Cal last week, they copped the wrath.
Yeah, well, they did. They did. You're right. The other A-grade game was in Kimber, Ports 32. A nice score from the Ports girls, yes. But Kimber 56. Too good. Yes.
Look, Ports. Chloe was really quite happy with 32 goals. It was just the fact that they let Kimber do 56, which, was probably not ideal. But having said that, Chloe was quite happy with the Ports girls. They're already down to 5 at the first quarter and then down 8 at half time. So, against a side like Kimber, and the fact that Port still had a couple missing, and the fact that they, haven't really had a chance to train together, that she was pretty happy at halftime. However, after halftime, things fell apart a little bit, and Kimber just, they settled down and they actually found their mojo and they found their rhythm, and it just from there went a little bit downhill for Ports. Kimber were able to push away with a good win in the end. But, like I said, there's lots of positives that come out of the first half, and that's what Chloe's certainly going to work on. Lauren Millard got the best for Ports. She had a really good game against Shiley Harris, who's no mean defender, is a mean defender for that poor young girl, but she stood up really well to that. So they were really happy with that. But Hannah Wolford through centre for Ports was quite good. Like I said, Kimber, a little bit too experienced in the end and just knew how to rein it in when they needed to.
Well, there you go. And that leads us to who's playing who this week. So Central United had the bye last week. They'll be back in action this week, and I think they've got an interesting task ahead of them, haven't they?
Well, they take on Ports, so look, and unfortunately for Ports, they're going to be still down 3 or 4 players. Poor old Chloe, she just cannot get a consistent group together. Central United, however, will have pretty close to their full side. So again, there's a fair bit of height there, and Ports know that that's what they're going to be up against. And they've tried to work on some combinations. They're trying to give their young ones the experiences by, staying on top of what they need to be doing, and not to drop their heads and all those sorts of things. But look, Central United will be too strong. There's no question about that. Too tall. And I think also their transitional play is coming along really nicely too for them. They actually are able to score off of their turnovers, which is what Ports really struggle to do. So, Central United be too strong.
Right. And the other fixture this week, Joe, is?
Cow play Kimber.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
At Cow, isn't it? Is it at Cow?
At Cow, yep. Yes, it is at Cow. So this will be unfortunate for Cow because, they copped Eastern Rangers one week and then they copped Kimber the next. So the 2 top teams, 2 weeks in a row is not easy, and they're still got a couple out, still haven't had a full complement of training, so still a new coach, still trying to put things together. Kimber becoming quite consistent. They have got players back from injury, back from illnesses, and are settling down quite nicely. And I just think that they will be too good for Cow, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looks that way. But, another round of matches to come in Eastern Eyre and Great Flinders Netball. Joe, anything else before we wrap it up?
Oh, look, I think it's around about that. Is about it for this week, Jay. So head into Country Carnival, of course, next weekend, and all of these, both associations are taking down sides, they're taking senior sides as well. So, they'll have selected their teams, and we'll be looking forward to doing quite well down there and in the June long weekend. So, but I think other than that, people are sort of gearing up for that. that time of the year, Jace, where you get down to country champs and you get wet and cold and and hope for the best.
Well, looking forward to watching them go at it when the time comes, Joe. We'll talk about it next week. Until then, mate, enjoy the week.
Yep, thanks, Jace. You too.